Liverpool are hiding something, and no one has noticed. Within their 4-2-4 shape lies a weakness that Arne Slot doesn't want you to know about, and yet managers are trying. They're trying to find the hole in Liverpool's game plan using 3 different strategies. The first is the shape, and they're trying to rip it apart. We're going to use Chelsea setup as an example because they came the closest to finding this hidden weakness. Chelsea set up in a 3-2-5 formation, but it was these double 10s that were the most important. One of them being Cole Palmer, the most dangerous man on the pitch that Liverpool so desperately wanted to stop. But it was these double 10s that Chelsea used to rip apart Liverpool's shape. Within Liverpool's 4-2-4 shape lies a few principles. The first is how compact they want to be. And in this screenshot, we can see that the distance from the centre-backs to that first line of pressure is incredibly tight. They want to limit the amount of space in between the lines and limit the opportunities in the centre of the park. To do this, they need an incredibly patient first line that's constantly in communication with the 2 6s behind them. And Chelsea knew this, but they wanted to tear it apart to find this hidden weakness. Chelsea's makeshift back line knew that they weren't going to rush this front 4, so it was down to these double 10s to create that space in behind them. So Gusto and Palmer pulled incredibly wide into these half spaces on the blind side of the 2 wingers here, hoping that Liverpool's double 6 would follow them. And even though Gravenberch and Jones didn't entirely commit, naturally that gap widened, meaning not only did they lose communication from their front line, but due to that distance, lost communication between themselves and created this big gap in behind this first line of pressure. This was a problem for Liverpool, but what if I told you that Arne Slot was still incredibly comfortable? I'm going to get onto that in a moment because we need to get onto the second way teams are trying to find Liverpool's weakness, and it's through exploiting their press. Although Liverpool's front line is patient, they're still looking to win the ball, and so they're setting traps for other teams. The wide players of Salah and Gakpo would arc their runs ever so slightly, pressuring the outside foot of the left and right centre-backs, forcing the ball inside. Again, Liverpool are incredibly confident that they can win the ball in central areas. When either Jota or Szoboszlai would jump to that first line, trying to trap the ball high up the pitch, it would leave the other in a 2v1 situation, with that player often favouring the ball-sided 6, leaving a spare man, often Caicedo, to receive the pass and have this amount of space to attack Liverpool's back line. And even if Gravenberch had attempted to cover, Chelsea would still have that +1 in all of this space. Chelsea was so close to finding Liverpool's weakness, and yet Arne Slot was so comfortable, and he had a right to be. Look at the expected goals of that first half. How is this possible? Well, the third way teams have tried to hurt Liverpool reveals the hidden weakness, but it's important to know how Liverpool have been this comfortable up until now. Well, it comes back to the principles of this shape that Arne Slot has coached so brilliantly. The distance between the last and front line is so tight it reduces space in the middle, and the first line of pressure is patient and compact, waiting for the other team to move, and it becomes almost impossible to play through them. And even if you can play around them, Liverpool are gaining a confidence in defending wide areas. And even while Chelsea try and rip apart Liverpool's shape, creating the space in the centre, it then comes back to Liverpool's mentality. Not only is Trent incredibly conservative in the press of Liverpool, meaning Konate doesn't have to defend huge spaces left by the right back, but the mentality of these 6 players here to bust a gut and get bodies behind the ball as quickly as possible. That, mixed with the quality of Liverpool's back line, is creating a defensive mentality that we almost didn't see under Klopp. But there is a weakness hidden within Arne Slot's game plan that no one seems to notice, and it has everything to do with disorientation. I can explain this best using two screenshots. The first with Reece James on the ball. We can see Liverpool have that usual first line of four, but this time with Curtis Jones on the outside, who's been pulled in by Cole Palmer's positioning. This gives emphasis on Cody Gakpo to drop into that sixth position and cover the pass into Caicedo. We can see that Virgil van Dijk is screaming at one of Jones or Gakpo to drop into that space and stop the pass going into the midfielder. And this is Liverpool's problem. If teams higher up the pitch, not allowing Liverpool to settle, can cause players to cover for others' roles, it makes the shape incredibly disorientated as players struggle to make those quick decisions when covering for others. And this weakness in Liverpool's system can best be exploited by playing across and diagonally through their shape. With Gusto not wanting to play the ball down the line, probably due to Salah's positioning, he instead looks inside the pitch. And despite the positioning of the ball on the pitch, Liverpool haven't shifted to the left. They've stayed fairly rigid in their shape. And with Liverpool only having those two midfielders and the ball coming across Liverpool's shape, it guarantees that one of those midfielders is going to be taken out of the game entirely, meaning one of those front four is going to have to drop and cover. To make it clearer on the board, with Gusto in possession, these are the two Liverpool midfielders. So if a player, Gusto in this example, drops into a wide positioning and looks to play the ball diagonally across the double pivot of Liverpool, it will entirely take out a midfielder from the game. And as that ball travels across, suddenly we play in this part of the pitch, and due to Liverpool's refusal of dropping a player from that first line to help, we then create a 4v5 scenario in this part of the pitch, all from playing the ball diagonally across Liverpool's shape. And with that refusal or lack of instruction of one of those first four to cover in the midfield, the press and Liverpool shape becomes disorientated, and this is Liverpool's weakness that Arne Slot will need to fix, or else Liverpool's form might not continue for much longer.